All right, everybody, I got 301, so I'm going to go ahead and kick this meeting off. Welcome, everybody, to the August meeting of the DuPage ROSC Council. I'm Jarrett Burton. I'm the coordinator for the ROSC meeting. Apologies for having to kind of last minute switch this all over to Zoom. I'm very under the weather. So as I was saying before the meeting started, this could go either way. Let's see how we do in the next hour here. But if you see me turn my camera off to blow my nose or something, don't hold it against me. If everybody could do me a favor and start by muting, if you're not muted, and then further into the meeting, if you'd like to talk, you can put the little digital hand up, or you can just jump in when it comes time to make comments or questions or anything like that. Also, as always, I am recording today's meeting. That's for internal purposes. We put the meeting minutes up. And then we also put the recordings up on YouTube on our YouTube channel. So I always like just to let everybody know that we're doing that. But yeah, thank you again, everybody, for showing up. Great group. Nice core group we're getting coming back again and again. I like to see it. And some new faces too, which is awesome. We're going to go over a few housekeeping things here before we kind of get into the meat of the meeting. So let me share my screen and go over a few things with y'all here. All right, so everybody can see that. So today's meeting, we're obviously this first part here. After this, we are going to get a subcommittee report. So if you guys haven't been following along, we did create a subcommittee that meets once a month that kind of works on some of the bigger picture stuff, maybe directing some of the ideas and the efforts that we're going to be doing through the ROSC. That meets once a month. We'll kind of tell you when the next one is coming up towards the end of the meeting. But Sehal is going to give us a report on what we talked about at this last one. Our speaker, I'm very excited. Mike Wood is here. He works for Indiana Center for Recovery, but he's been in recovery out here in this area for a while. Great speaker. I thought it would just be important to have somebody with lived experience to talk to a little bit about their recovery journey on a month like Overdose Awareness. So we're excited to have him here with us. And I may ask him to also talk a little bit about what he does through his organization as well. A little bit later, I would like to spend a couple of minutes, since it is Overdose Awareness Month, to kind of honor some of those loved ones. So if anybody wants to mention names or bring up people that they may have lost, loved ones, friends, or family members, I do want to allow some time for that. We're going to be doing some organizational updates. There are quite a few overdose awareness events coming up towards the end of the month. So we'll talk about those, but also just to hear kind of what your organizations are working on. Are there new programs that you're doing? Are there events that are coming up? We'd love to hear about those. And then we'll pump those dates there again for those events and the next committee meetings towards the very end. So Sehal, I'm going to pass it over to you. If you want to jump on and tell us a little bit about what happened at our July subcommittee meeting.
Sure. So for July subcommittee meeting, we had a total of 10 people in attendance. So we started off the meeting by Jarrett going over some of the housekeeping, discussing the purpose of this committee, which is to be planning for future educations, trainings, events. Just the hope is to get more people involved so that we can have more hands on deck. So if anybody's interested, please do check us out. It is held at Serenity House in person at 7 p.m. the last Wednesday of the month. In addition to that, we discussed what we can do as a ROSC to kind of advocate for areas within the community that are lacking. So we kind of talked largely about harm reduction and also sober housing and the challenges that people face when trying to access those services, right? So we talked about that. Felicia gave us an overview of the upcoming Overdose Awareness month events that are going to be discussed towards the end of this meeting. So I'll leave that out. But we also talked about barriers to sober housing and what we can do as a ROSC within the community to kind of advocate on a larger scale. We kind of talked about advocacy work could kind of look kind of like us going to city council meetings, or different ways that we can get ourselves out there in the community and actually do the footwork for what is lacking within the continuum of care for recovery. And yeah, that is all I've got. If I missed anything, Jarrett, go ahead and chime in, but that is basically on a smaller scale what we discussed throughout our meeting.
Awesome, thank you. One thing else I will bring up that we talked about, just to kind of show you some of the stuff that we're working on, even at a smaller level. So a lot of us, I'm sure here in this meeting, deal with all kinds of referrals. So looking for services. If everyone can make sure they're muted, that'd be great, thanks. We are dealing with all kinds of referrals in our different organizations, but also just as people in recovery, we hear about, you know, folks that are looking for housing, or people who are looking to get into detox or treatment and stuff like that. I mean, not a day goes by that I don't get some sort of text or call about that. And I think that kind of applies to a lot of people, and it definitely applied to people at the subcommittee meeting. So one of the things that we did was to create a group text, which sounds like a small thing, but it's actually been super helpful. The kind of core of us that have been going to the meeting, that committee meeting. So anytime we get a referral, because sometimes we'll just get stuff that is outside of our particular wheelhouse. Like for instance, we got one yesterday that was someone who was looking for faith-based sober living. You know, but since we're able to kind of tap into the resources that we have through this ROSC, it's easy to get those people those resources they were looking for. If anyone might be interested in being in that group, we try to keep it low key, like not text bomb each other. But if you're looking for a way to get into sharing resources, or if you get referrals and you want to pass them on to somebody, I definitely could talk to you about that. I think that might be a good step. I know it's been super helpful for me. I don't know if anybody else who's been in it so far has found it helpful as well. But yeah, if you're interested in that, I usually send a follow-up email after the meeting, and I'll do that. Just respond back and say you're interested in it, and I'll get you set up on that. So yeah, that was all the committee updates. Before I throw it over to our guest, I just wanted to go over some things, go over some numbers, just so we can kind of look at what the reality is of some of the things we're facing out here in DuPage as far as some of these overdose stats. It is Overdose Awareness Month, so we do have to think about what it is we're facing out here as we're bringing awareness to this stuff. So this is kind of like the most recent overdose stats from the coroner. This came out in March of 22, so this goes back into 2020, 2021. So it's obviously we don't have the numbers since then, but we'll probably be getting that next year. But this is sort of like almost like State of the Union type address for what overdoses are looking like in DuPage County. And just a couple of things that stood out to me. And I can also include this if you haven't seen this yet, I can include this in the follow-up email. But straight from the coroner's mouth, he says heroin is a minor drug at this point. Fentanyl has become the major drug death-causing drug that's out here in DuPage County. So there was 102 opioid-related overdoses, but only 35% of those overdoses involved heroin. But 81% of them had fentanyl in their bloodstream. So you can see the numbers right there already jumping from fentanyl. Fentanyl alone caused 29 deaths. And the one that jumped out to me too was fentanyl and cocaine caused 16 deaths. So that goes to show you, these are people who are not going out seeking opioid use, but are using drugs like cocaine and still finding that the fentanyl is causing overdoses in those. And at one point, he said it was commonplace to find up to 15 drugs in someone's system. You know, this isn't as easy as just, you know, a heroin epidemic. This is something where there's multiple different drugs found in people's bloodstreams. I talked about it at a previous meeting, drugs like tranquilizers that are showing up, stuff that Narcan really can't even touch at this point. So it's a very serious issue that's going on. And then the other trend is like the age is increasing. So it used to be, you'd think that it was, you know, the younger folks who were dealing with this, but if you look at some of these numbers, age of opioid deaths in 2021 or 2020 and 2021, age 20 to 29 went down, but the ages that went up in the overdoses are between 30 and 50. So you can see this isn't just a young person's problem. This is an issue across the board, but especially in that 30 to 50 age range. So these are just some of the kind of stark realities of the issues we're facing out here in DuPage as far as the opioid crisis, and why we bang the drum so much about awareness of overdose and harm reduction and Narcan and things like that. But again, if you haven't seen this, this came out in March. I'd be happy to pass this along to anybody if they have not seen it yet. I'm going to stop the share here because I'm very excited to be able to turn it over to our guest here. So I've known Mike Wood, gosh, I probably met him maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even prior, before I maybe even got sober. Mike was part of a group of people that kind of, I just called the Banyan group, which was like him, Brad Gerke, Jenny Monroe, a bunch of people that I knew, who had great sobriety, at least from where I was at. And I always looked at Mike and Brad and those people and thought, like, I want to be like them when I grow up. And that sounds like a joke, but it's true. Like I saw these people who were, you know, in places that I had been and probably even lower at certain points. And they had not only turned their life around, but they had kind of dedicated their lives and what they were doing to help people who were still struggling. And now that I get to kind of look at Mike as a peer, it really means a lot to me. And it's a very special thing to be able to share this type of stuff. So I'm happy he's here. He's going to talk a little bit about his journey. And then, like I said, Mike, hopefully at the end, we can get a little bit of info about what you're doing at Indiana Centers for Recovery, because I think what you're doing could be very helpful for a lot of people on this call. So everybody, I want to hand it over to Mike Wood. You're muted, buddy.
We good?
Yeah, keep talking.
All right, perfect. So, first I'll give you an instance of a conversation I had recently. I talked to a person who was part of a detox unit. It's sort of in our area that got shut down, and the ER director of this place talked to this woman and said, all you're doing is housing the undesirables. And when I look back on who I was prior to recovery, that ER director was spot on. This woman had a vision of who people were past addiction. And honestly, when I look at a group like this, it's like, goodness gracious, there's, you know what I mean? There's, let us not grow weary in doing good, because we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So I love seeing this. I love being a part of this. Thank you so much, Jared, for connecting with me and bringing me in on this. My name is Michael Wood. My sobriety date is November 7th, 2013. Forever grateful for that day. And when people ask me my age, I'll look at my wife and be like, honey, how old am I? I don't remember my age, but I will never forget November 7th, 2013. So, but my recovery journey, and I want you guys to envision something as I sort of talk. What I noticed with my life as a child and also my recovery journey as a whole is it truly a person who brought me to the place that I am today, or an army of people that have put their hands behind me. Truthfully, that's where my desire comes from, to help people. And I was brought up in a lineage that was all about service work to others. So early in recovery, I was actually at Serenity House. And my mentor, who I still look at as like a father figure to this day, trained me up and brought me up in a sense of, hey, get out and get in the trenches. Like, just get in the trenches, get with people, show them the way out. So I was trying to get into DuPage County Jail and Cook County Jail when I was only 9 months out of jail, and it wasn't allowed. They were like, dude, you just got out of jail. You can't come back in. So anyways, regardless of that, my recovery journey started by people showing me what it looked like to live in recovery. My drug addiction goes back. I actually my progression was pretty rapid. So I'll go back to my childhood. I grew up in a small town called Elmwood Park, right outside the city of Chicago. Middle class neighborhood, and to be honest with you, my family was not middle class. Like, we were the apartment kids. My biological father wasn't around much, and my mom is like the superhero of my life, who constantly worked. She kept our heads above water. But my mom also struggled with addiction. So my mom's, my uncles, aunts, several people. I got an aunt who passed away at the beginning of the opiate epidemic for being overprescribed prescription painkillers. And I say that to say this: I had seen the damage firsthand, what addiction can do to somebody. Like, it wasn't like this unknown thing to me. And matter of fact, my sister, my stepfather, and myself went to go visit my mom while she was at Share. My mom was at Share ages ago. So we went to go visit my mom at Share. And I walked out of that place and I looked back at my family, and I said, I'll never be one of those scumbags. Right? Like, that was my thought of addiction.
Mike, we may be losing you, buddy. Seems like the bandwidth
Shortly
is a
after
little
that visit, I started to fall into the same trap that I've seen so many people fall into. One, obviously, the stigma around asking for help is, especially for a teenage boy, is sort of very great. Two, I was surrounded by drugs and alcohol constantly. So I was in 8th grade, and I started smoking weed with my friends. Um, with I'm not a big fan of like peer pressure or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I think as a society we spend way too much time talking about peer pressure to teenagers, um, and really it was more of a pressure from within. Uh, so my buddy offered me to smoke with them, and it was like, hey man, this will help with your anger, and there was my opportunity. And I'll be honest with you, everything that I learned prior to how bad drugs are, guess what? When I smoked weed, it helped with my anger. Shortly after that, alcohol was brought in front of me, and it was brought in front of me with a promise of, hey man, this will help liven up this party. And guess what? It livened up the party. Unfortunately, there's a pattern of how these substances were brought in front of me. And I go on very shortly after that. As a matter of fact, I can share with you guys, but I was 14 years old, and I had already used cocaine at this time, and then heroin was brought in front of me. And the promise behind that was, Mikey, this will make you feel better. And I'll never forget, I snorted my first line of heroin, and guess what? It made me feel better. The reason why was because of the overwhelming numbness that it brought. Right? I was numb spiritually, I was numb emotionally, I was numb mentally. And I no longer cared what people thought of me. I was no longer the master of the mask. So when I was I could put on my mask any way that I wanted to. I could be the jock, I can be whatever I wanted to be in that moment. People pleaser galore. And with drugs and alcohol, I no longer cared. So obviously, I don't have to share with you guys the progression. Time goes on, time goes on, time goes on. I
Hey,
end up in this place called Southwood Interventions. And man, one, you clinicians, we're constantly praying for you guys. I was a jerk. I was quiet. I was disrespectful when I did speak. And these volunteers came in, and like I said in the beginning, you seen these hands behind me that were holding me up as I was falling. So the volunteers, combined with the clinicians, combined with the support of the family that I had left, um, combined with a few good friends, where all of a sudden the hands, sort of like the wings that were guiding me. Um, I went through some good recovery. I met my sponsor. I went to Woodridge Interventions for 90 days. And I remember I sort of puffed my chest out and said, hey, I'm not mandated here. Um, and I know most people are. And I just got a question. And a guy stopped me dead in my tracks and said, brother, you may not be mandated by the court, but you're mandated by death. And in seeing the numbers that Jared just showed, um, that is the absolute truth for the people that we see that are still sick and suffering. The absolute truth is that if they don't get the help that they need, I mean, the unfortunate destination is is death. If they're lucky, maybe an institution. So I went on 11 months sober. I you can call it whatever you want, but truthfully, what it was just the selfishness and self-centeredness that I had, and I wanted things my way, and I ended up relapsing. Went to jail for a few months, and then I ended up getting out of jail. That was when I went to Serenity House. Um, Super grateful for that. I had a counselor at the time who nearly kicked me out before I even entered. She wasn't a big fan of my attitude, and literally showed me a wait list of like 30 people. And again, now it was serious for me. So I go into this place, and she asked me, "Do you really want to be here?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And she goes, "Well, before you come in, why don't you call your sponsor and keep your clothes packed, because I have 35, 45, whatever she had. I got a list of people that really want to be here." I called my sponsor. He had some choice words for me. And, oh, is it? Jared, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Mike is breaking up a little bit, man. I think your
I
bandwidth is
just
low. We're
got a
catching most
text
of it
from
though.
Jared that the bandwidth is low. So I'm not sure if you guys are hearing me well. Okay. So I go into this place and and started to get down to causes and conditions with a phenomenal therapist, and really started to soak it in. Truthfully, am I cutting in and out? Okay, good. Thank you. So as I was saying, I go into Serenity House. I'm sort of I'm beat up. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm beat up as beat up can be. Did I want to be at Serenity House or at any institution? Not at all. You better believe when I was a 14-year-old kid that had a desire to play professional sports and had a desire to do something besides, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life, but literally you go back to that pinky promise. I knew that I did not want to be a drug addict. So my one desire, my one thing that I wanted in life was to not become like most of my family. And and obviously that happened. So I had this deep-seated shame and guilt, and my counselor each week in and week out, we worked on that. My sponsor took me through the steps. Each person played a significant
Mike, I'm sorry, buddy. We keep losing you.
Incredibly grateful
Okay,
for
now
the
you're back.
and to help. Yeah, this is a tough, I can, it's even coming up for me where it says like your internet connection is unstable. So I apologize to you guys.
Maybe if you turn your camera off, it might help make it a slightly better. I've seen that make a difference sometimes.
See, that's why I have great committee members.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So yeah, I'm not even sure how much you guys have heard. A lot of people have familiar faces here. So they so moving on with with where I'm at in my life today. So I started my journey working for a flooring company. While I was with that flooring company, I was heavily involved with treatment and with recovery and helping people get the treatment that they need. And to be honest with you, I was sort of a renegade in the beginning. It was just trying to get around red tape and trying to figure out how to get people the best treatment that they can get, whether they had finances or not. And then I went to a place called Banyan Treatment Center. I worked there as a supervisor behavioral health tech. And in that was where I met some of the people that Jared was talking about. And it was phenomenal to work in recovery, to be able to see people transform their lives from sort of the darkness of addiction to the light of sobriety. And then I went to work for in the trades for a flooring company. And I'll be honest with you guys, just started to get deflated, overworked, like 60 to 80 hours weeks, just constant work. And I got this opportunity brought in front of me to work for Indiana Center for Recovery. And my first instance with Indiana Center for Recovery was 2 years ago. I had called a friend of mine who's now a coworker of mine and said, "Hey, I'm looking to get my cousin into treatment, and he needs a place that's really going to focus on some things that have happened to him in the past." And we set him up at ICFR. I'm grateful to share, and trust me, it's the same thing like anybody's journey. His recovery is not significantly due to the treatment he was placed in, but more so the people that surrounded him. But he just celebrated 2 years of sobriety. And speaking of which, my cousin is also a young man that's been hit with Narcan 14 times. 14 times. And I won't even reiterate the words that people have said about him, and where he should be and why he should be, and so on and so forth. The only thing that I know is I am extremely grateful for men and women like yourselves that have taken great strides and great sacrifices to see things like Narcan in the hands of just about everybody, to see countless second chances, because not only my cousin, but many others, now they're able to be fathers, mothers, things that they would realistically wouldn't even be without those second, third, fourth, fifth chances. So at Indiana Center for Recovery, obviously we're based out of Indiana. We bring people in from all over the nation. One of the things that we sort of hang our hats on is that we have a substantial focus on trauma. So we do EMDR therapy, things like that, motivational interviewing, stuff like that, CBT, DBT. But really, the clinical director, Dr. Michael Kane, has sought out that we have a program really focused on trauma and why people go back to what they go to in and out. So we also have a methadone detox, up to 120 milligrams. We will detox somebody off of methadone, and that's another thing that's sort of out of the ordinary. But otherwise, we're just surrounded, like most places, we're just surrounded with people who ultimately are super compassionate. They care tremendously, and we just love what we do and hope to help people just like everybody else in this group. So Jared, I'm not sure how much time you wanted me to take. I'd be happy to answer questions if that's a thing. And I apologize for my internet connection. And I know that must have been, it was frustrating for me. So I know it must have been, I see some people scratching their heads. So I hope it wasn't too frustrating for you guys. But yeah, feel free to let me know if there's anything I can help answer or anything I can.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It was fine, man. It happens. It happens. The thing that sticks out to me, um, not only about your own journey, but like what you're doing now, especially through that group, is the fact that you're working for an organization, but you're able to understand that, maybe your particular organization isn't a fit for everybody, right? So when we get referrals, we have to be able to kind of help those people find the spot they need and kind of follow through with it. Which I think sometimes people really get lost in the cracks sometimes in recovery. I talk to first responders, who'll tell me that, their responsibility is just to maybe get them to the hospital, but they can't follow them after that, or maybe we can refer someone to detox, but we don't know if they're getting there. And I know you, from the conversations we had, that's something that's big for you, right? Is getting those people to the place that they need to go, even if it's not through your organization.
Absolutely. I don't think treatment at all is a one size fits all type of industry. There's, I can go to 7 different places and ultimately it's the 7th one that it finally hits me. But truthfully, there's a lot of little sort of determining factors that go into placing somebody, right? You might have location. Say I go into somebody meeting them for Indiana and they're like, hey, I cannot be that far away from home. As their anxiety is too high, whatever it is, but them being too far away from home makes them want to leave even more, whatever it may be. And that's why I love the relationships that I've built thus far and am continuing to build, is because then we make a phone call, shoot out a text and say, hey, I got a guy here. Because ultimately, like the verse that I read in the beginning, we don't see in addiction and recovery, we don't see overnight results, right? It's not like you get somebody, like the officer said, you get somebody into a hospital and all of a sudden the next day they come up to you with an open arm saying, thank you so much, you saved my life, right? We come together as a team knowing that, say Jared, I were to bring somebody your way for whatever, I know that he's going to be in good hands with you. And ultimately that's all that I can ask for in my profession, is to gain trustful relationships, to say, hey, you're in good hands with any one of these people and you're going to get the best treatment and the treatment that you deserve as a human. Um, Mine was, regardless of what anybody else says about myself as an addict or other addicts still in the struggle, I mean, we're human beings. We deserve the love and compassion that people can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have some comments or questions for Mike?
I just wanted to say thank you. And I really appreciated that you mentioned trauma, right? I am highly focused on researching trauma as it correlates to addiction, right? And a lot of times, it gets put on the side burner, right? Because there's so many other things that are going on in a person's life, especially when they're trying to seek treatment and coming to, whether it's an ER or a treatment facility, right? A lot of times it can be one of those things that are like, so we look at presenting issues, right? And a lot of times trauma can be like put on the back burner. So I really appreciated that you mentioned that. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Jan Winhall, but she's done some great research and some great work, and has a really good book called Treating Trauma and Addiction with the Felt Sense Polyvagal Model, a bottom-up approach. I'm such a fan, so I just had to go ahead and share that. I really appreciate it that you brought that up and what you're doing with your work. It's amazing. Thank you.
I appreciate that. That's another thing. I think the work that we're doing is lessening the stigma and things like PTSD. Whenever you hear PTSD, you think of like a war hero or like somebody who's been overseas fighting battles. But if we're honest, many of us, and many people we encounter struggle with PTSD. Um, it's just a thing that's been, even for me and my own growth over the last nearly 9 years, it's been an extreme eye opener. Just the lessening of the stigma and the people and how deep things like trauma go.
Murph, I see your hand up. Do you want to unmute? There you go.
Trying to unmute, yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Murphy, drug addict, alcoholic, and I've been associated for the Serenity House with the Serenity House for some time now. This retreat that I'm doing in 2 weekends, it deals with trauma, and I read a book by Oprah Winfrey and a Dr. Perry concerning that called "What Happened to You," and I make a disclaimer at the beginning of the retreat that not everybody has experience. I was raised in the projects. My dad was an alcoholic, and I had a very traumatic childhood. The first 5 years of my life was lived in fear, total. With my dad beating my mom and furniture crashing and me cowering under a table or something. It was horrendous. And it had so much to do with why I love the effects that drugs and alcohol produced in me and for me. The sponsor that I had, he was one of the original house managers here at the house. And he helped me to see these things and helped me to realize that the defects of character that were in place in my character were all choices that I had made at some point in time. I had chosen to be afraid. I had chosen to be angry. And those became a part of my character as I grew up. But this book, What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey, kind of deals with it. And there's a lot of pertinent information that I threw out there. But by the end, I did this retreat, the same retreat back in June. And by the end of the retreat, 90% of the people came out of their denial, perhaps. Maybe their traumatic experience weren't as severe as mine, but they all kind of related to where I was going with it. Traumatic experience can be a disappointment that we experienced as a child, and it changed our character. So anyway, thanks, Mike. When were you here at the house?
I actually went on one of your retreats, Jim.
Oh, yeah? When was that?
2014.
Wow.
Fall of 2014 at Desiderata.
Cool. Well, it's good to see you again, Mike. It's I hope the retreat would be helpful, and that's why I do it. I have such a positive experience on each and every one of them, not from what I'm doing, but from how it's received. It just seems so beneficial. I'm so glad to be a part of this process and part of Serenity House. I've been around for 34 years. In 2 days, I'll have 34 years of complete sobriety. So I'm just glad to be a part of this, especially this new ROSC thing. It's amazing the resources that are coming available. I just got a call a couple of days ago from some mother that wanted her son, 29 years old, to get into treatment, and we checked around, and the only place that would take him at the time was Rosecrans. So she drove him there yesterday, and I'm just hoping it'll take. I too, when I did the Sunday night meeting, or when I started it pre-COVID, I asked the group how many people were court mandated, and 75% of the guys raised their hand. And I said, boy, oh boy, I got my work cut out for me. It just, but you know, if you're sincere and you want to help, it sometimes turns heads and hearts to the proper perspectives. So thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Murph. Got time for a couple more if anybody wants to say anything to Mike. Going once, going twice. Hey, Mike, would you do me a favor? And would you put, and then this goes for everybody too, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. If y'all want to put your name and contact info in the chat, that's a great way people can kind of keep track of each other.
There's no chat box, Jarrett.
There's no chat box.
Megan.
Why is there no chat box?
Mhm.
What the hell happened?
I was
That's so
wondering
weird.
that this entire time, so it's funny that you said that, but like this entire time, I was like, why is there no chat box today?
That is so
I thought it
weird.
was me.
No, it's not you guys. It's usually right there. Holy moly. All right, well, I'm gonna have to have an angry phone call with Zoom or something. I'm not sure. All right, sorry about that. But Mike, hey, thank you again for coming, man. We appreciate it and look forward to working with you more in the future. And thank you. Keep up your good work.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
Mike, I want to say my name's Angie. Thank you for your vulnerability and your authenticity. And I know someone mentioned it earlier. Thank you for bringing your experience, your wisdom, and pairing that with trauma and attachment styles, how they're developed in childhood and things along those lines. So thank you for your bravery and your transparency. I really appreciate it. Coming from someone in recovery as well.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. And my apologies about the internet connection.
Don't sweat it. You can't do anything about it. Thanks for
Mike,
coming.
if it, Mike, if it helps, since you turned the camera off, it has been substantially better. So we were able to hear you for that
Yes.
whole second stretch.
So you got a good 3 minutes. Perfect.
It was the most important 3 minutes.
Perfect.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, moving right along. So we were supposed to have a second guest. I guess I should explain that real quick. We were supposed to have Jason and his co-founder from Spiritus Coffee. I don't know if anybody's heard of it yet, but it's a new coffee company out here in DuPage. They roast their own beans and everything, and they give 20% of their proceeds to substance use and mental health organizations, which is a pretty amazing thing. But yesterday, Jason let me know he is a new father. So he has a very important thing to do today, which is help look over his new baby. So congratulations to him. Next month, though, in September, we are going to have them out to Serenity House for the ROSC meeting, and they're going to bring coffee for everybody to try. So you'll see that in the flyer that's coming up. But they're a great company, and I can't think of better organizations out here that they could, be helping. I know their first quarter, they are donating some funds to NAMI DuPage, as well as Brad Gerke's 516 Light Foundation, which are two pretty amazing organizations out here in DuPage. So that's a very cool thing. So yeah, look out for that next month. In addition, next month, as it is Recovery Month, we're going to maybe focus a little bit on some of the, I think everybody, when they get into recovery, they get told about all of the different 12-step meetings there are here, but there's a lot of folks that doesn't work for. So it's great that as we look at multiple pathways to recovery, we put some spotlights on the other organizations or the other recovery programs that we have out here. So I know Sonny Sorrentino, who's a fabulous member of ROSC and the ROSC committee, is going to talk next month a little bit about smart recovery, because he is the man as far as smart recovery goes out here. And I also, I'm very close to getting somebody from Refuge Recovery too to come on and talk about some of the work they're doing in the area too. So I think that'd be helpful for everybody to find out, these different pathways to recovery. It's not just AA and NA. There's other ways to do that. So at the end, I'll kind of pull up the dates on that stuff so everybody has it. So I wanted to pull up something real quick on the share screen, as we are talking about overdose awareness. Can everybody see that for the most part? All right, so these are some opioid overdose kits that we're going to be distributing over the coming months. The kits themselves, like the actual bags, are courtesy of the wonderful folks at the DuPage Health Department. And these little mesh bags can hold 2 different doses of Narcan, as well as fentanyl testing strips, which I'm working with Steve Stefani from Hope for Healing, which is a harm reduction group out here, to get these strips for those as well. And the thought with this was, and I brought this up at previous committee meetings, which is sometimes it's a little bit easier to carry Narcan on you. Like for instance, like with women, they might be carrying a purse or a bag, a shoulder bag or something. So it's kind of easy to carry it around. Men, not as easy sometimes. We try to carry as little as possible on us. So we definitely aren't carrying bags around. So we thought, well, what are some ways that we can make sure people are keeping this on them? And not only people who know some loved ones that are substance users, but also just people in general. Seriously, not a week goes by that I don't hear about someone coming across an overdose, like in a restaurant or a library bathroom. So the more of us that are carrying Narcan at all times, the better. And that's a huge advocacy thing that we're going to be working on in the coming year, is finding ways to get people Narcan when they need it. I mentioned before at previous meetings, working with the health department, hopefully having a Narcan like vending machine, which will, I think they're working on a pilot right now, where hopefully they're going to get that into a hospital, which is a great thing. The more of these types of ideas, the better. But so be on the lookout when you come to our overdose awareness events. We will have those to distribute to you. But in general, if you're ever in need of Narcan, DuPage ROSC can help you. I've got boxes on boxes of Narcan. Come and see me, distribute it, carry it with you. And I think that's just a super important thing for us to try and spread that message. Stop that share here for a second. I did want to spend a couple of minutes here before we go into our organizational updates. Just as a couple of minutes to kind of honor some people that we may have lost to overdose. And this really is a month that we're honoring them. And this isn't meant to be a sad time, right? I think sometimes when you hear about overdose awareness events, it's kind of this kind of a sad time for people when they think about that. We're really looking at this as a way to honor those people, and it's a celebration of their lives. And I want to invite anybody who wants to mention somebody here in the next couple of minutes, please do. And I'll start. Recently I lost a very good friend of mine, Tom, who I've known since I was 15 or 16. And there's not a day goes by that I don't think about him. And I miss him every day. And I wish I could have told him that one last time. Donna, would you like to mention somebody?
Hi, I'm Donna Foyle from Serenity House. I lost my son. We're coming up on 11 years in December. So this month, in addition to multiple clients, which is so heartbreaking for me. This month, I agree, it is a celebration. And I tell our clients, it's not just about the deaths, it's about celebrating that you're all here, that you're alive, and you've got that second chance out there, third chance, whatever it might be. So this, when we do overdose awareness and everything, it just keeps fueling my fire. So we'll keep fighting the fight.
Thanks, Donna. Astrid, good to see you. You're next with your hand up.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Astrid. CADC, recently retired. Woo! So my time is has opened up for more volunteer activities, which is fabulous. I have so many names, just like Donna was saying. I've been through Serenity House. I've been, losing roommates, but there's one that was recently a gentleman by the name of Nick P. And man, that really rocked me, because I know his family very well, and I knew him well. So and then another one of earlier in my recovery was Tracy C. I don't know if people remember. Donna's shaking her head. Yeah, she remembers. Okay. Beautiful people. And that's what I have always told my clients. We are beautiful people. We just have an awful disease. I just love addicts. Now, addicts, alcoholics, we don't say that anymore. See, I'm old school. Because they are so creative, kind, and loving. So yay us. Thank you.
Thanks, Astrid. Angie, you were next up. Thanks for coming to check out our meeting. This is Angie, who's part of the statewide ROSC organization, and she'll be checking in on us and seeing what we're up to. So thanks for coming, Angie.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jared, and everyone else. Thank you for having me. I have been to about 5 funerals this year. I'll say the one that really I keep thinking about is my cousin. He would have been 32 on July 28th. And so we had a celebration of life, much to your point, Jared. It's usually a somber time, but we all got together this past Saturday and just, rented out a place and had games and just fun, because that was the spirit. He was lost here in our living realm, but now that he's in the universe, his sweet spirit is hopefully living on the way he needs to be.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you.
Alexandra.
Hi, I go by Lexi, but I didn't change my name. But I am an associate therapist here at Northeast DuPage Family and Youth Services. And I just wanted to recognize my dad, who passed away from an opioid overdose 2 years ago. I keep his picture right here on my desk. But I just thought that this would honor him and celebrate his life, because he's more than just an addiction dad, and a great person at that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lexi. Murph, I see your hand up too. Is that still up, or is it up again? There it is.
It's up again.
All right.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Once again, Murph, drug addict, alcoholic, and I've gotten 4 guys that all went through the Serenity House, and all of which I've worked with for a lengthy time, and all of which it saddens me deeply that they're no longer with us. But 2 of them, I've got pictures from the retreat, group shots and single shots. Mike Drew, it just tears my heart out, because I knew that all 4 of them was an accidental thing, and I know that they still want to be with us. And it just the families, everything. I was part of the families for at least 3 of the guys. Mike, I didn't know his family too well, but it just I don't know, seeing their pictures and the smiles that they had on their face, just it brightens me up. So I'm so glad to be a part of this overdose awareness thing. It's just that we're trying to do something about it too. That's a good thing. I just want to be part of the cure, not the disease. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Murph. I got time for a couple more if anybody wants to. All right. Well, thank you, everybody who mentioned their loved ones. We keep these people in our heart, and we got to just do the best we can to celebrate them, like we said, right? And do the best we can to fight this thing. Let me share screen again real quick, because I'm going to talk about some overdose awareness events that are coming up. So we've got 2 personally that the ROSC are doing. This one, August 30th, 6 to 8:30 p.m. This is in Glendale Heights. So this is at the Glendale Heights PD in partnership with Serenity House and DuPage ROSC. We're gonna have guest speakers, music, food, and also memorial for those that were lost, in addition to on-site Narcan training and distribution of Narcan, test strips, you name it, all the good harm reduction stuff we'll be giving out at that. So that's August 30th. The next night, we have got one at Serenity House in Addison. So this one is from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We're going to have a balloon release. We're going to have musicians. We're going to have speakers. We're going to have a really great group of people out to continue this celebration through the rest of the month. So we really hope to see y'all out there. I've been sending these flyers out with my ROSC communications, and I'll make sure that I resend them for anybody that didn't get them. And again, I'm sorry about the lack of chat feature. It's really annoying. Otherwise, I would make sure I got everybody's contact info. But also, I didn't see Steve Stefani on the phone, but Hope for Healing, in partnership with Live for Lolly, is having a safe and secure overdose awareness event This one's going to be in West Chicago at St. Andrew's Church. That's on August 20th from 11 to 2 p.m. As you can see, games, prizes, raffles, a lot of different organizations are part of that one. That's actually at St. Andrew's Church is where Hope for Healing takes its harm reduction truck out on Fridays. And we've been out there. A few of us have been out there and been able to go on the truck with them. It's a really amazing thing that they're getting started out here in DuPage. As I've said before, DuPage County was a little bit slow to the uptake on getting certain harm reduction services into these cities, and we're still working on it. But West Chicago has been really cool with having that truck out there on a regular basis. And Steve's a great guy, and they've been fabulous at working on building relationships with the people that come out to see them. So those are the three events that we have got going on. I would like to throw it to the group. Is there anybody else that has events or programs they would like us to know about here in these last 2 or 3 minutes? What are you working on? Is there stuff you need help on? Any events you want to promote?
Hey, good afternoon, folks. My name is Daryl Pass, and I am the Manager of Recovery Support Services for Kenneth Young Center. We as well are having a drug overdose awareness day on the 31st at Kenneth Young headquarters, 1001 Rowling Road. We're going to have amazing food. We have the band Broken Robots that will be there. We're going to have a memorial service in the Blossom Garden that we have transformed. It will be a meditation place. And we're also going to be giving out Narcan, fentanyl test strips. There'll be Narcan training. Just an awesome event. Someone did mention that we're going to have this as a celebration of life. And so that's going to be really impactful. We got some mothers there who are super excited about being a part of this and kind of changing that narrative a little bit and making it, again, where it's a celebration. And we're going to talk about good memories of these individuals who we've unfortunately lost to substance use disorders. We also are having for Recovery Month in September, we're having Webinar Wednesday. And Webinar Wednesday will be Zoom collaborations from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Wednesday in the month of September. We're going to have harm reduction. We're going to have pre-arrest diversion. We're going to have recovery resources. We're going to have Dr. Steve Holsford, who is the Assistant Director at Delnor Hospital. He's going to speak on MAT, medical assisted treatment. So we're just going to have a plethora of educational information and resources, as well as each one of those Wednesdays, we're going to have a person speak on their adversity and triumph over substance use disorder. Some of them will speak on mental health. We're also going to have an impactful education on trauma, because that is a real thing. So September 10th, if you ride by our headquarters on Rowling Road, you're going to see a huge purple balloon that will be erected this coming Monday, because September 10th we'll have a Remember, Recover, Discover event. Right. It's a huge event. This is the third one that we've done. They've been very successful, where we're just going to have a plethora of treatment centers, different resource. Last year we had 22 resource tables there. Any information, education you need surrounding substance use, current issues, trauma, whatever it is, we got it. They'll be there. Awesome speakers, entertainment, food. The mayor will be there. The police department will be there. We'll be honoring the EMTs in Elk Grove. So just come out, join us, have some good food, good collaboration, fellowship, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks, Daryl. All that stuff on your website?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Right. I'll put that in the links when I send out the follow-up email. But yeah, good to see you at the meeting, Daryl.
Yes, absolutely. And we are a part of ROSC as well. Angie and man, you're all that. You know, I love you, girl. Jared, thank you for welcoming us, and we're looking forward to collaborating with you folks in the future.
All right. I got about 1 minute left. Anybody else have anything before we sign off? Any other events or anything they want to promote?
Yeah, I'd like to go if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, my name is Matt Ashley from the Way Back in Maywood. For those who haven't already gotten an email about this, I would just like to let everybody know that our Rebuilders Dinner is September 9th. It's our annual silent auction that we do every year. We are looking for sponsors and people to buy tickets, donations. It's a good opportunity for you to show up and talk about your organization. So there's no chat here. So if you just want to go to waybackin.org, we'll try to get all the information to you if you have any questions or anything like that. So.
All right. Thanks, Matt. I should be
Thank
at
you.
that dinner, by the way.
I'll see you there, man.
Yeah, sounds good. So just a couple of dates before we sign off. The next ROSC subcommittee meeting is going to be on Wednesday, September 7th. Usually it's on the last Wednesday of the month, but this month is the overdose awareness event, so we're pushing it a week. So Wednesday, September 7th at 7 p.m. Those are all in person at Serenity House in Addison. And then our next meeting of the ROSC Council will be Wednesday, September 14th at 3 p.m. And hopefully by next time we'll be back to our hybrid in person and Zoom. Gonna try to make that coffee house event with Spiritus Coffee. So try to get as many people out in person as we can. Jen, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed that flyer with the Hanover Park. Can I email you directly to get a copy of that?
Hanover Park?
The Hanover Park flyer that you had sent, like the Hanover Park Police Department.
Oh, the Glendale Heights.
Glendale Heights, sorry.
Yes, that's okay. Yeah, I will
Awesome.
absolutely send that. But yeah, it's
Thank you so much.
August 30th. All right, y'all. Well, I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes if anybody has any questions, but otherwise, thank you again for bearing with me while being very sick and moving to all Zoom format for today. But thank you everybody for coming out. Great to see you and hope to see you at the events later this month.
Hope you feel better, buddy.
Thanks, Jarrett.
Thanks, Jared. Feel better.
Thank you, Jarrett.
Thank you.
Hey, Jared.
Yes, sir.
Hey, could you email me that information that we spoke about concerning the recovery coaching and
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to get with Donna to see when the next training is scheduled because I think they're going back and forth on a date. As soon as we get it, though, you'll be the first person to get it.
Okay, because I got a couple of employees and stuff that I really want to take advantage of that with this.
Yeah,
one.
and they will. Believe me, we'll get you set up.
Sounds good, Jared. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Daryl. Have a good one.
You as well.
Thanks, Jarrett. Feel better.
Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye.